We have another question here from Sister Habiba. She says that the women are more responsible for the bid'ah in India. How do you respond to all these questions?
In fact, there are many programs on the Peace TV, alhamdulillah, which focus on removing the bid'ah. And you know, there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of bid'ah throughout the world.
And every culture had their own set of
right.
bid'ah.
And India not being unlike, they have many bid'ahs. Anything which is against the Quran and the Sahih Hadith, which people think it's part of the deen, it's our duty to tell them that this is not our deen. And this comes because of the culture. What we realize that Indians, most of us initially, we were Hindus. We don't have Arab blood in us. Maybe a few, but the majority of us, we are coming from a background which were Hindus. Maybe of grandfather, great-great-grandfather. So many of the practices of our great-great-grandfather's religion do creep into us. So though we do become Muslims, there are some of the practices which creep into us, and we substitute that. That's how we find these various bid'ah. So it's our duty to point out that this is not part of Islam. It is an innovation that came later on. That is the reason we say that anyone says anything about deen, he should back it up with a reference from the Quran and the Sahih Hadith. And I say that any scholar says anything, let him be the greatest scholar in the world. We follow Allah, His commandment in the Quran, and the Prophet Muhammad, his commandments, and his way of life, and the next 3 generations. Any scholar after that says anything, if he does not refer to these sources, whatever he says doesn't carry weight. If it's a part of deen. If it's something else, it's different. We're talking about Mamla, talking about science, technology is different. But if it's talking about the deen, about the ibadat, it should be backed up from proof from the Quran and the Sahih Hadith. Worship.
Okay.
So unfortunately, the easiest way to remove it, any scholar says anything, let him be the most famous. Therefore I say, what Zakir Naik says in Islam is 0. But whenever I give, I always, when I give an answer, I back it up with the reference of the Quran and Sahih Hadith. So when we find all these innovations coming in India, I request the people, Muslims, to ask reference from the Shaykh. And if the Shaykh give references, backed up with proof, if it's there in the Sahih Hadith, that means that it is the part of deen. If it's not, then just by saying that my Shaykh said so and so, or this great scholar said so and so, that's not sufficient for it to be part of the deen.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.